Hafaday Speaker Cruz, Vice Speaker Therese Terlahi, and Senator Will Castro. Thank you for staying and hearing our testimony. So I'm from Prutehi Litekyan, Sabina, and the reason why I'm here is that I believe the power lies with our people. And it's clear because after the NEPA has been followed, after the Endangered Species Act has been followed, they have failed us. These laws have failed us to actually protect what is dear to us. And we feel that the agencies, the senators, still have a chance to stop one of the most destructive things that could happen in our history. We understand that the bulldozing can happen as soon as November, and we don't have much time to act. In the beginning of our campaign, I wrote letters to Rear Admiral Shoshana Chatfield, Robin Thorson of the Fish and Wildlife Service, and to the senators, Speaker B.J. Cruz, Vice Speaker Therese Terlahi, Congresswoman Madeline Berdalio. And basically what I said, it is our collective action that will determine the outcome. So having said that, we are looking to all of you, our leaders, to stand up for what is right before this destruction occurs. And like I said, the power lies with us. As long as we stay with that thought, we can stop this from happening. And so it's important that we break down the barriers that divide us. One of the things that we hear is that this buildup of the relocation of the Marines is going to bring wealth to our island. But we're losing sight of the real value of our wealth, which is our land, our resources. Money flows like water. It comes in and it goes out. Our land is here. And it's up to us to protect what is going to produce, what is the true source of our wealth. And it also breaks my heart to see the landowners of the Texan having to go through repeating the same history of fighting for their land, only to be denied. And it's because we've given up our power to the federal government. We need to reclaim that power as a people and to believe that we can give the land back to them, that we can save our last Hudson Lagu tree, that we can save our last of our Mariana 8-spot butterfly. We can do this. We need everybody's support in this. And money, like I said, will disappear. And what's going to be left is the destruction of our land. Do we want to see that as the legacy of the 34th Guam Legislature? And it's sad to see that not many senators are here today to hear this. But we need them. We need them in our fight to stop this at this stage. We need the help of our State Historic Preservation Office. What we ask is very simple. Take Litekyan off the list as the site where there is going to be desecration because of a firing range at Northwest Field. This land is very dear to us, and we have to believe we have the power to stop this. And I'm inviting all of you to work together. Prutehi Litekyan would like to be a part of this conversation and dialogue to stop this. It's not too late. The other thing I wanted to say is that we began this organization because we wanted to give voice to those without a voice, but whose fate depended upon us. And that's very special connection to the Hudson Lagu tree. But in return, she has given us the voice of our community, and that voice is just going to get stronger. So please, stand by us and work with us to stop the firing range. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Vice Speaker Therese Terlahi. Thanks. This is Speaker BJ. I know he's behind us. He has he has made his intentions known that he is not pro-BIODA. Senator Talina Nelson for your perseverance today and Senator Will Castro. As I sit here, I realize that the military wants another piece of the best that we have on this whole island. They have already taken the best scenic places, the best beaches, the best of everything that we have, and they still want more. Like Rumble here, this has got to stop. And what I heard here tonight is the State Historic Preservation Officer saying that there's an update on the number of sites that have been found. To me, that's justification enough for the legislature to collaborate with the State Historic Preservation Officer to negate the PA. And we are asking you for your commitment, you Vice Speaker, you Speaker BJ, Senator Bisco Lee, Senator Castro, Senator Esteves, Senator Nelson. We are asking for your commitment to stand by Prutehi Litekyan and make that commitment to us to stop the live fire training range, another beautiful piece of our island that they want again. To me, this is a national treasure. This is our national treasure. This is a great historical landmark of our people's fight to survive a genocidal war in the 17th century. Our people were pushed up north until we could stay there no longer. We left off the shores of Urunao, Litekyan, Pahon, Inapsan, Talagi, and our ancestors went to Goni. And Quiroga sought them, rounded them up, and brought the last 1,000 of our Chamorro ancestors back to this island. It's an area that gives us historical pride. How can we give this up to the military? They have already taken Fena, they've taken all our water resources, they're polluting the northern aquifer. God knows what. I certainly would like to get an independent water study on what's happening there. Like I said, Taragi, our families, relatives are landlocked over there. They have to get permission to access their land. And this is really not about access. This is about ownership. This belongs to people that are still alive today. They need to get their lands back. They need to continue their generations of their families on this land. This is where they identify as being a part of this land, part of Guam. We need to find a way. And again, yes or no, are you willing to make a commitment to stop the live firing range either through a TRO with Prutehi Litekyan or stopping the PA? We have justification from the State Historic Preservation Officer who told us this evening that there's additional information now. Thank you.
Thank you. Hafidez and Zuzmasi for taking this extra time. I mean, first of all, for coming here and putting this together and then taking all of this time and asking those hard questions because they really need to be asked. So what I tried to do is I tried to put together a few of the answers to some of the questions that have been asked to try to get to them. So with what Senator Esteves was asking, it's absolutely not too late. It is absolutely not too late. It is 8 years at the earliest, before the Marines even get here, there is a court case going on in the Northern Mariana Islands, the decision of which could put everything back at the drawing table. So to say that it's a done deal is absolutely wrong. It feels like, there's no rush. Let me restart that. There is no rush towards the bulldozing and the desecration and the taking apart and the dismantling of the cultural heritage to the digging up of the plants that are host plants. There is absolutely no rush to that. And the fact that they are doing something that feels like they're rushing, it feels like they're trying to ramrod it through in the hopes that we'll all just take it and it will go away. But it won't. We will be fighting this. And if they do try to ramrod this and push that through, it's only going to intensify the discontent and the anger and the injustice of it all, because it is absolutely wrong. At the very least, Litekyan, Tailalo, they need to be taken off the table, period. But at the very least, they should be putting these things on hold while that court case is going on. To ramrod this through, to be rushing to do it yesterday, that is absolutely wrong, because with that court case going on and genetic testing of our Hudson Lagu that may be telling us it may be the one tree of its kind in the entire world, and they're rushing to get this done, then they are jeopardizing everything. They cannot put those things back. So with the process, a lot of people have pointed to it and they said, well, but we've gone through the process. As we speak, they are rewriting the National Historic Preservation Act because they realize it's got flaws. It has failures. And so they are rewriting it. They have been doing this for a while to strengthen it, to try to fix those things. For us to point to it as the process and say, oh, well, it follows the process. We know the process is flawed. So I've gone through as much as I can of the EIS and the SEIS, and I'm telling you, it is replete with issues. It is very troubling. What I have definitely noticed is they have found ways to discount. So they said, 906 people submitted public comments. Government agencies did, cultural practitioners did, cultural groups did, scientists did, community members did. But I read through some of those, and I've read through large portions of their reports, and they are finding ways to discount it so that they have collected it, but they haven't really adhered to it. So some of the examples are looking at subsistence fishing, looking at the collection of omit so that we can heal our people, looking at the connection of ancestors, and they have mislabeled it as recreation. They say it's not a severe impact if we close off access, if we close off these activities or severely limit them, because they have recreation areas elsewhere. And that's absolutely the wrong category for these activities. When we're talking about subsistence fishing, that's about putting food on the table for dinner. That is about going to areas that you learn to fish with your grandparents, and that you're hoping to be able to follow that family tradition and pass it on to your children and grandchildren. That is not recreation. They mentioned in an area that they recognize that severely limiting the access would likely cause social injustice, feelings of social injustice. But then they very quickly follow it up and say, well, we can't guarantee it, so therefore we're going to say it's less than significant. And it just befuddles my mind as a social scientist how anybody can say, because we can't guarantee it, it's likely to happen, but if we can't guarantee it, then we can just discount it and say that it's not an impact at all. All they have to do is look at the history of things here, and they can say with certainty it's absolutely going to cause feelings of social injustice. And we've already seen that for months already, that people are mentioning that. So when I wrote about as one of my public comments about the lack of access and how this was going to stop people from being able to connect with their ancestors and the ancestral village and the ancestral sites, and what a deep and spiritual thing that was. Part of their response was to point out that this was going to be a new opportunity to meet new people. And so those are the type of examples of how they discounted real substantive comments. And this whole thing with hand grenades, you know, maybe we can point to and we can say, well, legally, they can add that in. But as a community member, it feels very much like a bait and switch. I went through those 4,000 pages, not all of them, but I went through those 4,000 pages and I was reading about something I was against, which are machine guns, assault rifles, pistols, and things like that. But I do not remember any mention about hand grenades, and I went through their additional studies that they based these things on. And for them to be adding that in them later, I feel like the whole public comment period was this charade then, because we were commenting on pistols and assault rifles and machine guns, which I'm absolutely against, but to throw in hand grenades, where are the last of our fanihi are, and the last of so many of our endangered and threatened native species are, just takes it to this other level of impact. When I asked them, getting to this being preferred, a preferred alternative, when I asked them and I said, look, why are you, no, I did not ask them like that, and it wasn't stuttering, it's getting late and I'm sorry. But I had asked them about what study they had that justified their preferring this. Because the first two studies that I read tossed Litekyan out on its ear. They said, it is so unreasonable, it is so destructive, we're not even going to finish the study because we have found it too unreasonable to even consider. So how you go from finding it too unreasonable to even consider to saying that it's the preferred alternative that they can make it work is not acceptable, first of all. And when we look at the word preferred, it's not some mandate that it's all of the military buildup hinges upon this preference. A preference is just to like something. That's it. It's not anything deeper than that. They like it. They can practically roll out of their bed in Anderson and roll out of their bed in NICTAMS and be at the range. That's the only reason I've been able to figure out as to why it's preferred. And when I asked them for a study, when I asked them to justify it, they had no answer. At least at that meeting, they did not. So when we look at that, when we look at the studies that the SCIS says it is the site that will cause the most damage, both in construction, it will cause the most damage in the decades of operation that it will be existing, and it's still their preferred site, I cannot say that they are living up to those principles that they committed themselves to of being one Guam. That is not one Guam. That is not green Guam. That is not being culturally sensitive. And in my assessment, it is not net negative either, because they are taking away from the fishermen who say that that is 40% of the fishable area. And they're doing that something like 273 days a year. And they are taking from our children and certainly our families who are holding that area as heritage for their children and grandchildren and so forth. So to me, it's taking of the highest order. So one of the things that the UN has said is that while we are going through the stages of decolonization, the area is not, and I must point out that it's the US that put us on that list to be decolonized. It's not something that was forced upon them. They put us on that list. And while we're going through the processes of decolonization, they have a solemn duty not to destroy our environment while we're deciding what we're going to do. Because if the native inhabitants decide what they're going to do, they can't look around and see an island that's in shambles because the U.S. did not fulfill their solemn duty. So I did mention at the meeting, and I'll mention it now, this will go in our history books. I teach history. I've taught history for about 12 years. Historia and Guahan is one of the main topics that I teach. And this will be absolutely in our history books. There are already 2 dissertations that are being written about it. We will learn the names of Chatfield and the others that are involved. And those people need to figure out what side of that story they're going to be on, because those names will be in our children and grandchildren's mouths. They will be learning it and tested on it, and they will be remembering this. So again, Seduas Maasi for the opportunity to share this, and I will now pass it on to the next speaker.
Thank you. Buenas noches, Guausi Luke Davis, and just for the record, I am not related to Arnold Dave Davis in any way, just to get that out of the way. Yeah, Sendang Luna Seduas Maasi, Toda Samzu to everybody who's allowing me to be here. Thank you to the Chamorro people for allowing me to live on this beautiful island and live amongst you. I really appreciate it. Anyway, so the first thing I'm going to start with is that an injustice has been perpetuated on the original landowners of Litekyan. They were forcibly removed from their property. In my mind, that's kind of the absolute greatest violence that can be done to anybody. And it happened, and it's still happening now. And it's kind of up to you, the senators, to correct this injustice. Governor Calvo hasn't really moved on it, made a decision. Madeleine Bordallo seems to be, on the side of the United States military, of DOD, so it's really fallen on your shoulders. Thank you so much, Senator Nelson, Senator Castro, and Vice Speaker Talahi for being here, for being here this long. Anyways, so it was perpetuated by the U.S. military, by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and the former leaders of Guam, and some of the current leaders of Guam. We really need to call them out as well. Anyway, so I'm calling on the current leaders. You should undo this injustice and negotiate the no-action alternative, that is not to have any of the 5 alternatives that were recognized in the original DEIS or environmental impact statement, and return Litekyan to the original landowners. The problem is that if you let this construction of the live fire training range complex go on, and you let it happen, this is going to further delay the return of the land to the original landowners. And that's been stated, by many other people, but it needs to be stated again. For me, listening earlier, the testimony of Robert Crisostomo, the liaison to the governor for the buildup, and the governor's representatives, it actually revealed a lot. I'm not sure what that noise is.
That's the aircon.
Oh, it's the aircon, good, because at my house, it's always the helicopters flying over my apartment. So anyways, and always, kind of duck and cover. Anyways, so the testimony of Mr. Crisostomo and the others revealed that the executive is uneducated and unaware of the potential harm that the live fire training range complex poses, or that they have made a decision to disregard the right of the people to know basic information regarding the environment and ancestral sites. It's one of the two. Either they don't know anything, or they're hiding it, and they're not giving the information to the people. Either way, that is unacceptable. And again, it's up to you to really do something about it, because it seems no one else is going to. None of the other leaders are going to. Anyways, so let's see what's next. And it's been said before, and then Dr. Marsh-Taitano just said it as well. But as previously stated, and according to the DoD documents, Alternative 5 Litekyan was the most harmful option. Right, and this was really not considered, like Dr. Marsh said, originally in the plans for the buildup. This was not considered part of it, but now all of a sudden it is. For me, in my opinion, the greatest harm is the potential contamination of the northern aquifer, and that's been mentioned over and over and over, and it really needs to be mentioned again. Let's see.